Hello, everybody. It's me, Ross, and welcome to another edition of the Monday Recap. And I'm joined, as ever, from Liam from the Kings of Anglia Fan Social Posse, and we're here to recap the Blues' 5-2 defeat against Bolton Wanderers on Saturday. International break is over, and Town are back in action, and the winless run continues. And Liam, where do we start? Your snap verdict on that very, embarrassing 5-2 defeat at home.
Not a lot you can say, really. That's as bad as it can get, really, I think. You look at the 5 games that went before that, and you talk about gelling, and had it not been for individual mistakes and certain moments in the game, you could conceivably say Town are sitting here with maximum points from 5 games. As it is, they didn't win the big moments. They made the individual mistakes, and they didn't end up being good enough to win the games. Saturday, they were outplayed from start to finish. There was none of this moment where you feel Town were in the game. Of course, we took the lead, but I mean, Bolton looked livelier. They looked sharper. They just looked like a much better cohesive unit than Town did. And the worrying thing for me is that just the whole shape of the team defensively was an absolute shambles. You look at the other games and you talk about the individual mistakes, but in this game, everything was just off kilter, and I think it all stems from the midfield. Don't have a footing in the game there. The wide men are having to kind of cut inside, plug the gaps. The fullbacks are bombing on, and it leaves so much space in behind. And it's not helped by the fact that pretty much 90% of the team had an absolute stinker. Burgess, we're all talking about how good he was when he made his debut, first couple of starts. He looked a bit, I don't know, he looked like he had gone backwards. The 2 fullbacks had real shockers. Coulson, who everyone was kind of revering as man of the match last time out, had an absolute stinker. Edmondson, how much can you attribute that on Edmondson? It might be a bit harsh first start. Walton didn't really have much chance with any of the goals apart from maybe the first one that he's allowed through his legs, but he is quite point blank range almost. So yeah, there's not a lot that you can kind of really go, yeah, we've got many positives out of this one. Bon, Aluko, and probably Burns get pass marks, and the rest. And we still got a problem with that number 10 role. Chaplin was there, and he, just like Fraser, was as ineffective. At the moment, they just don't know how to set up in this system, clearly. And I think going forward, Cook is going to have to try and be a bit more, maybe switch it, maybe be a bit more stable, put a bit more meat in midfield, and for the time being, until he maybe is more confident that they can play this. Because at the moment, I think there's not a lot of balance in that side between attack and defence.
And of course, you mentioned Paul Cook, and well, the question will be asked, and a lot of fans are mentioning it already. And I hate to answer this question, but when is the moment where people will question Paul Cook's future at the club? I'm not going to aim the question at you, but as a fan, what's your thoughts on that? And stupid question, really, but what's your thoughts on that?
The absurd answer is now. There are clearly people who are already calling for Cook. Cook's been on the back foot ever since the draw against Morecambe on the opening day. There's been people suddenly kind of already wavering, which is just absurd. Look, he's got to be questioned about Saturday, because you've got to look at that and say, Bolton are a team in form. They're a good side. They're not someone that you should take lightly. But you're at home, and it was just like a knife through butter. And you have to wonder what they were doing on the training field for that 2 weeks that we all expected Town to maybe gather a bit of understanding and more of a cohesive unit. and it seemed to go the opposite way. It suddenly went from to something that just needs a little bit more time before it all clicks into gear to suddenly just an absolute. And it may be the players just had a bad day, and but enough of them did that Town had a shocker. And look, Paul Cook has to be questioned about that. Maybe the formation, as I've just said, isn't working. And that if he really wants the team to play like that, then maybe for the time being, he's going to have to maybe change his own principles, try and be a bit more hard to beat, and start evolving that more attacking play into the team as we go along. I just feel at the moment that you see an average of 2 goals a game, and then they concede 5 at the weekend, and it could have been more. We're quite lucky that Bolton kind of just decided to take their foot off our throat basically after the 5th, because they could have maybe, if they wanted to, have gone for 6 or 7. The biggest thing for me was the players, that second half. I mean, the goal at half time is a bit of a killer, but that second half, they were so far off the pace. And you look at the 2 goals, and there's opportunities there to close the ball down or get in and get the ball clear. And yet there just didn't seem to be any reactivity to that. There didn't seem to be any urgency to react to what was unfolding. And Bolton just kept coming and coming, and the goals were going to come. And that's, for me, was the most worrying. It just, there wasn't any grit there. It just seemed to be that, and yet it was only a goal, and Town had already come back from behind in the first half. It was still game on, and then to concede those 2 was bad. So for me, Cook does have to answer those questions of what happened on Saturday, but on the whole kind of overall process at the moment, I think it's absolutely ridiculous to even consider. I mean, I've seen people saying that he's got 4 games, and if he doesn't do anything in the 4 games, if you look right, you look at I'll use an example of non-Town and the Town example, which might be even more powerful. You look at the best manager that has ever been in the Premier League, in Alex Ferguson, and he was under pressure to turn an ailing club round in the late 80s to challenge with Liverpool and actually win titles. And had it not been, and this is widely attributed, had it not been for a Mark Robins goal in the FA Cup, then potentially he would have lost his job in 1990. And everything that has happened since at Manchester United would have never have happened, potentially. So, but he won the FA Cup that year, and he went on to create that dynasty because the board stuck with him. Now, whether they would have sacked him or not, I have no idea. That it's easy to say in hindsight, but and you look at Bobby Robson, he didn't exactly have a particularly flying start at Ipswich either, and he went on to basically be Town's greatest manager, really. Him and Alf Ramsey, obviously, 2 of the best managers England have ever produced. But obviously, Bobby won the FA Cup, and he took obviously Town into Europe and won a European competition as well. But again, if it hadn't been, and I mean, it's a different time, different era, but had he not been given time, those things may not have happened. Paul Cook has had half a season with a squad that was pretty poor, and was lacking a lot of confidence and a lot of quality from the remnants of the Paul Lambert era. And look, we expected better, but look, I think people knew change was coming, and so it has. And maybe some of the players did down tools, and we were never really going to see some bounce towards the playoffs. This season, yes, the pressure is on because it is his players now, but you listen to Mark Ashton, change management on this level, it's very, very, very hard to achieve immediate results on that because you have got so many moving parts. Players have to settle. Players have to then get used to the team that they're playing in. They have to get used to their teammates. They have to get used to the area that they're living in. They have to get used to the manager. Everything is, and I just think it's absurd to say that Cook should be hounded out at this present moment. It's if you take the opponents on Saturday and you take Blackpool as the examples, they changed their squads last season. We beat Blackpool 4-1 with that side, and they went like a train in the second half and came third and got promoted. But Bolton, which I've widely seen, were 19th in February and finished in the final automatic promotion from League Two in third. And by the looks of it, they weren't that far away from actually maybe even winning the title. So it can be done when it all clicks. So I think people need look, we want results, but I think people need to really understand that this is a long-term project and that I think the American owners know that and that they're going to give him time. So let's give him time. And the players, we've all drooled over them over the last couple of weeks without a game. So let's let them get together. Let's hopefully Cook gets the right blend eventually, and it all starts coming together. And all of this will just be absolute nonsense.
Yeah, hopefully, and well said as ever, my friend. And of course, Town have got West Ham under 21s in the Papa John's Trophy on Tuesday at Portman Road, and then we travel to Lincoln City, who also scored 5 goals the weekend just gone against Cambridge away. So that was a good result for them. But let us know in the comments down below your thoughts, your verdict on the weekend just gone, and your thoughts going into the next 2 games. Can Town finally get that first win? The excuse, I'm sure, is now out the window in terms of, let the players gel. They had 2 weeks on the training ground. Now they need to perform on the pitch. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Liam, thanks for joining me as ever. And one more thing, my friend.
I just want to say, look, we need to give him time, but we do need to start winning games. We do need, the gap will get wider. So we do have to be careful. And I suppose Lincoln and Sheffield Wednesday, the next 2 games, are not exactly games you want to be playing after such a horrid result against Bolton. But we've got to give him time. But it is a balancing act. Results do have to start coming. So hopefully on Saturday, because I'll be there. So to my shame.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get the first 3 points, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And of course, Lincoln City, they had a whole different team, didn't they? Last year with Mark Abberton, he got rid of the whole squad and he had to rebuild it, and they got into the playoffs. Unfortunately, lost in the playoffs, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But we'll be back next week for the Monday recap, hopefully talking about the first win. Although I jinxed that in game day, I said first win at the start of the game for Bolton, and then when we lost. So anyway, enough for me, and we'll see you in future videos soon. Bye for now.